It's the World Cup of World Cups, Qatar 2022, the quarter-finals.
Hello and welcome to the World Cup of World Cups podcast. I'm James Cook. I'm joined, as always, by Paul Savage. Hello, Paul.
Hello, how are you?
I'm all right. I wasn't, and now I am, I think.
Yeah, there's a reason that we recorded this 2 days after the last quarter-final rather than the day after.
Yeah, or immediately after. Had things gone another way, we might have done that, but no one wanted to hear two moaning old men crying as a podcast.
Yep.
So we're here to talk about the quarterfinals, or should we say the Qatar finals,
I see what you've done there.
which kicked off on Friday with flamboyant entertainers Brazil against surely their tired Croatia.
Just beat them in normal time. Don't let them do the thing that they're good at.
Well, you say that, but they are trying to stop them do that. And also, maybe Brazil aren't as good as everyone thinks they are.
The flashy entertainers do take a little bit of time and space to work up to flashy entertaining. And Croatia did not give them either of those things.
No. Also, Casemiro is a brilliant player, but he can't be an entire midfield.
Guys, let's play 4-1-5. It'll work. Playing one person as a midfield against possibly the strongest midfield still in this tournament is not the smartest idea.
No, and it takes Brazil until the stroke of half-time in extra time to score when Luka Modric fails to track his runner and Neymar dances through the defence to score. Cue mass celebrations, and Brazil are now definitely going to win the World Cup, definitely. Doesn't work out like that, though, does it? Because with 3 minutes to go, Luka Modric, in his redemption arc, sets in motion an attack into Brazil's completely empty right-back area. Why would you need a right-back when you're 1-0 up and holding on to a lead with 3 minutes to go? The ball comes into the box for Bruno Petkovic, who had, until this point, been pretty useless. But then he scores an equaliser, and it is the latest goal of this World Cup so far at 117 minutes. And that sends the whole thing into penalties.
And interestingly, on the bench for Brazil is Liverpool's player Fabinho, who has scored 22 out of 23 penalties in his career.
But he's also a midfielder, and we don't like those. Bruno Guimaraes is in the bench as well, who is a midfielder. Dominik Livakovic, this brilliant Croatian goalkeeper, he starts where he left off against Japan by saving from Rodrigo. Croatia score their first four, which means Marquinhos must score to keep the game alive, but he hits the post. Neymar does not take a penalty.
It's interesting whether he was going to take the fifth one as sort of the glory one, or whether he was not planning to take one in the first place. This happened at the African Cup of Nations, where it was like Salah was the Egyptian captain and was going to take the fifth one, and then didn't get that far. You think, I should probably win as quickly as you can.
Your best three penalty takers should take the first three penalties, regardless of what order, because you're definitely going to be in for the first three. And then we'll take care of 4 and 5 if and when we get there. It is the fourth penalty shootout victory for Croatia in the last 2 World Cups. In 2018 and 2022, they win their round of 16 and quarterfinals on penalties. Does this make Zlatko Dalic the greatest manager of all time, or is he just a bit lucky?
Well, I mean, you can practice these things.
And, you know, he sets Croatia up in such a way that they get to these penalty shootouts. Brazil last beat a European team in a knockout game when?
It'll be the one before when they played Germany.
The 2002 World Cup final against Germany.
Oh, wow.
Was the last time. Did you mean Germany in 2014?
Yeah, I was thinking it would be like the game before that or something. Yeah.
No. In every World Cup since, they've been knocked out by the first European nation they've played in the knockouts, and it's been a different one every time. France, Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, and Croatia. This is Croatia's 6th World Cup, and as I alluded to in the last episode, in those 6 World Cups, they've been knocked out in the group stage 3 times, and the other 3 times they've got to at least the semi-finals. In the Brazil squad is their centre-back, who doesn't get on the pitch, Gleison Bremer, who is named after...
Donald Gleeson.
No, after Andreas Bremer, the German fullback.
Oh, right, yeah, that makes sense.
From 1990. Netherlands-Argentina is the evening game. Nahul Molina gives Argentina the lead in the first half, and after 73 minutes, Lionel Messi converts a penalty for his 4th goal of the World Cup, and that happens literally 10 seconds before I go on stage at a gig in Solihull.
So you assume that the Argentinians can just play this game out because they've not really offered that much. 2-0 sort of seemed like a fair score.
I was literally waiting by the side of the stage. The TV on in the bar that I could see, and Messi was about to take the penalty, and the compere was doing his wind-up to introduce me on, and I was going, do a little bit longer, so I can watch his penalty.
Yeah. For the first time ever, you're going, actually, do tell another story as you're about to bring on an act, because that's always our favourite.
But while I'm on stage, Louis van Gaal turns into, I don't know, Dave Bassett and puts a couple of big men up front and just starts whacking it up there.
For all of their total football aspirations and that it should be a beautiful thing, he puts on former Burnley striker Wout Weghorst, who absolutely changes the game. I mean, it is interesting playing long ball football when you've got someone like Virgil van Dijk who can put a ball on someone's head from 70 yards. There's no wrong ways of playing football unless you're cheating. At one point, they do play Van Dijk as a striker. He was one of 4 up front.
So when I come off stage after my third encore and standing ovation, it's
picking up all the roses that have been thrown.
Yeah, back to 2-1, and it's in about the 94th minute of the game, with a few minutes left to go in injury time. And in the 101st minute, the Netherlands get a free kick.
Right, just hit this properly, work the keeper, see if he spills it. And they decide not to. They decide to put in one of the laziest balls. It's brilliant because it confused. No, that's it. They completely confuse all of the Argentinians who are expecting a big hit, and it just sort of rolls it in, and it really cleverly works free kick. Yep. It's 2-2.
Weghorst scores his second goal of the game. He scored as many goals in about 20 minutes as he did for Burnley.
Yes, and it was quite a testy game. There was a lot of people complaining that he really got the card happy, the ref. And he did, but also there was quite a lot of shin kicking.
There are 18 yellow cards brandished in the game by Spanish referee Mathieu Lahoth, whose style is described as quirky, including 2 for Denzel Dumfries. So he gets sent off like literally after the end of everything. Also, yellow cards for the Argentinian manager and the assistant. It is the record for the number of yellow cards given in a World Cup game, beating another Netherlands game, the 2006 second round game against Portugal, that had 16. Extra time is quite entertaining. Both teams are going for it, which is great to see.
Yeah.
There are no more goals, so it goes to penalties. And Aston Villa's Emi Martinez saves from Virgil van Dijk, whose great-grandfather was Chinese, and Steven Berghaus in your soul. Argentina's Enzo Fernandez misses the cursed 8th penalty, but Lautaro Martinez holds his nerve to score the decider, and after having 2 goals disallowed against Saudi Arabia in the first game of the tournament, he is essentially the match winner, and Argentina have got through. It finishes with the exact same scoreline as the penalty shootout in the 2014 semi-final.
There was a bit where I thought Argentina weren't going to do it. I'd watched the Croatia-Brazil game in a pub in central London, so there were actually Croatia and Brazil fans there. It was really interesting trying to watch it as a complete neutral. And so you end up picking a team based on whose fans are less annoying. Like, you've put a coat on a seat so that I can't sit down after having been at work all day, so I want you to lose.
This is the Netherlands' 3rd loss in a penalty shootout in 4 attempts, which puts them equal with England, but not as bad as Spain. The Netherlands squad features Vincent Janssen, whose mother is Anne-Marie Verstappen, who is a world champion swimmer, Jeremy Frimpong, Idlai Po, and defensive midfielder and time-travelling Englishman Kenneth Taylor, who sounds like a referee from the 60s. His middle name is Dorothea.
Wow.
Yeah. The Dutch squad featured a player called Kenneth Dorothea Taylor, and no one made a big thing of it. Saturday's quarterfinals started with Portugal, who looked so impressive against Switzerland, against plucky underdogs Morocco. Youssef En-Nesyri jumps and heads Morocco into the lead before half-time.
And a deserved lead.
What a brilliant header that was as well.
Yeah. They were like, oh, that is Ronaldo-esque. And you're like, ha, ha, ha. Because he wasn't playing at that point because he was on the bench.
But Santos does panic in the second half and bring him on.
Way too early.
For his record equalling 196th cap. It's world record equalling. Morocco end the game with 10 men after Valid Chadira is sent off in injury time for his second booking, but that's fine because he wasn't very good anyway. But luckily,
he literally just come on.
He came on, he missed a couple of chances, got booked twice, went off. It'd be like if I played in a football game. Luckily, their two backup centre-halves who ended up finishing the game, Ashraf Dari and Yavad Al-Yamig, and their stand-in captain, Sofian Amrabat, were absolutely immense.
It was a really strong performance.
And they hold out for the win and become the first African and first Arab nation to get to the semi-finals of the World Cup. It's finally happened, Paul.
It's been a long time coming. And already Luis Suarez was out and so couldn't stop Africa like he wants to.
And fitting, really, because Morocco, as we've talked about on this podcast before, they were the first African team to get a point at a World Cup. They were the first African team to get through the groups at a World Cup, the first African team to win a group at the World Cup. So it's kind of fitting that they are once again the trailblazers.
Even better, I predicted that they'd beat Spain. Listen back to one of the episodes.
All right, Mystic Meg.
I mean, I predicted everything else wrong, but, I got one right.
It's just a shame that Morocco never got to fulfil their wish of hosting the World Cup, which they went for every time for about 30 years and didn't get it.
Yeah.
And then there was another game.
Where'd you watch it?
At my house.
I went round to my brother's and basically walked out the house with a big bag of cans. Looked at how long it was going to take on City Mapper. I went, I'll drive. So I had one can. The problem was, it wasn't a bad game of football. England didn't play badly.
Nope.
But also there was enough that I think it's conspiracy, but also not enough that I can blame it entirely on that. I can't even be, we was robbed. If you are going to say, we was robbed, you can leave the window open a little bit. That doesn't help.
Aurélien Tchouameni scores his 10th ever career goal from 25 yards through Bellingham's legs, which is obviously Gareth Southgate's fault. No one's thinking Tchouameni's going to score from 25 yards. But these things happen. Also, the referee, Wilton Sampaio, is just randomly giving free kicks and randomly not giving them. It's like he gives every other free kick.
There was a bit in the second half where an England player is dragged down by three French people.
French people. Not the players, just three French people in berets and stripy shirts run on and attack him with baguettes.
The hunchback guy, Yves Mitterrand, and Jean-Pierre Papin. It wasn't. It was three French players. But they dragged down one of our players, and then England win the ball back, dragged down one of their players in exactly the same move, 6 seconds apart, and the ref gives it for the French. You just go, this is too much now. In the goal, before Tchouameni's goal, Saka was kicked and pulled to the floor. You go, well, drag it back for that, but they don't.
You've got to understand, Bukayo Saka is basically international waters. He's the Autobahn. The rules do not apply to him. As we will talk about in the forthcoming series, the World Cup of European Championships, Giorgio Chiellini tried to kill him during the Euros final, and nothing happened.
Peter Walton comes on, who's the ITV's referee consultant, who I have literally never heard say anything bad about a referee. The refereeing decision on the field is always right. They always throw to him. And he says it a bunch in this game. So, there's a big, strong penalty shout just before half-time.
And they think that it didn't get given because it happened outside the box and you don't take the play back unless it's a penalty. Even though if it's a free kick on the edge of the box, those don't count because VAR is incredibly inconsistent. But in the second half, Tchouameni fouls Saka for a penalty, which Harry Kane scores and becomes England's joint top goal scorer of all time with 53 goals. And then England starts to look really good. And there's 20 minutes of England where you're going, ooh, something might happen here. During which time, Harry Maguire has a header that hits the base of the post, which is Southgate's fault. And then with 12 minutes to go, Olivier Giroud has a header that deflects off Maguire's arm and goes in, which is Southgate's fault. It is Giroud's 53rd international goal also. Two players scored their 53rd goal in this game. So England then makes some substitutions, which I don't understand. As you've probably guessed from my slightly passive-aggressive tone, I am a Southgate defender. I don't defend everything he does. That would be as ludicrous as thinking everything he does is stupid. But I don't understand why he takes off Saka, the most dangerous player, to put on Raheem Sterling, who, although he's been brilliant for England, has just been on 2 massive international flights and dealt with a burglary.
But also, I think he leaves on Kane way too long in loads of games.
Who knows? I thought Harry Kane looked good and was playing well.
Yeah.
I didn't see a reason to take him off. And indeed, 6 minutes later, Mason Mount is bundled over. The referee really doesn't want to give the penalty. He really
does not.
VAR make him go over and look at it, and then he kind of goes, oh, fine.
And there's a bit where we were all screaming because he's not even looking at the flight of the ball. And he's like, oh, it's coming together with the shoulder. He's trying to think. You're like, yeah, it's shoulder to shoulder. It's not shoulder to the middle of the spine. It's a wrestling spear. It's dreadful challenge. And you sit there and you go, oh, okay, but it's Harry Kane. He doesn't miss penalties.
But he does, and he has missed them for England before.
Yeah. But like when you see the map, he's had penalties saved. And I think he's had a couple saved for Spurs. But generally, if there's anyone you want to have it in front of, you go, oh, yeah, okay, great. It's just the same thing he does every week in, week out. Harry Kane scores penalties. And then
guess what happens? He doesn't score it. I think his run-up was too short, and then he balloons his shot over the bar, and that is, of course, Southgate's fault. And it's a damn shame, not only because it means ultimately the England are out, but also that potentially that is the penalty that takes it into extra time. And I wanted to see more of the game, because it was a good game.
It was a really good game.
But England are out. Rashford has a free kick in the very last minute, which just goes over the bar. And you go, well, that was it. And these are the fine margins.
And also 10 minutes on the clock for extra time. 5 of that was dealt with a England player being injured that they then added 1 minute for.
I enjoyed Jack Grealish being given 40 seconds to try and save it.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Oh, well.
I thought it was very interesting that Henderson came out and spoke to the press afterwards rather than Kane, who is the captain.
Look, the margins are very tight, and it was a close game. You know, they're the world champions. They're probably going to win it again. We took them very close. We gave them more of a game than anyone has so far. I mean, some people are saying they were the first decent team England played. We were the first decent team that they played.
You can only
that happens when you get to the
You can only play who's put in front of you.
13 goals is the most goals England have ever scored at a World Cup because of how conservative Gareth Southgate is. The second highest is 12 at 2018.
Who was managed by?
Gareth Southgate.
Can't spell Southgate without out.
It is the first time since 1990 that both previous finalists have made the semi-finals, and France are the first reigning champions to make the semis since 1998. The semi-finals are coming up. It's Argentina against Croatia and Morocco versus France, which gives us 4 potential finals / third place playoffs. 2 of these games will happen after the semi-finals. The final could be Argentina-France. Everyone thinks it's going to be that, don't they?
And is the one that you'd, on paper, want?
It finished 4-3 to France in 2018 when they played in the second round.
In normal time.
There was an allegedly rigged game that Argentina won in 1978, and the 5th ever World Cup game in 1930 was Argentina-France, which was won 1-0 by Argentina when Luis Monti scored with 9 minutes to go. Go back to our previous episodes to hear all about these. It could be Croatia-France, which is a repeat of the last final. And which makes you go, what was the point of even doing the World Cup again if it's just going to be the same teams in the final? It's like Jimmy White and Stephen Hendry. It's also a replay of the 1998 semi-final where Slaven Bilic was a knobhead. It could be Croatia-Morocco in the final.
It would be the first one where no one's been in the final before since 2010. It
would be a definite first-time winner for the first time since 2010. But it would also be a repeat of the worst game of the group stage of this tournament. I tweeted at the time, if there are any other survivors of the Croatia-Morocco game and want to join my support group. And I'm going, oh God, it could be the final.
I got so much admin done that day.
Or it could be Argentina-Morocco, a game that has never happened at the World Cup, so we're in uncharted territory. Some omens. Argentina were in Group C, and Group C has provided more World Cup winners than any other group.
Ooh.
Almost a third of all World Cups have been won by a team from Group C. Croatia and Morocco were both in Group F, which is the only group to have never provided a World Cup winner ever. France were Group D 3 times. They've been Group D winners. So we've got that to look forward to. Got some emails. Matthew's been back in touch through his dad, Gavin. Matthew gave us the quiz with the answers and the scores.
Oh, yeah.
Go through really quickly. So number 1, name the 2 African-born Golden Boot winners. Eusebio and Just Fontaine, 2 points. You got that right.
Yeah.
Number 2, what year did El Salvador qualify for the World Cup? We said 1982. Actually, they qualified twice in 1970 as well.
Oh.
But Matthew has decided to give us 2 points. Gavin says he's in charge of the scoring system, so don't question it. Question 3, who was the oldest England player at this World Cup? We said Jordan Henderson. Kyle Walker is actually 42 days older.
Oh,
so we got that
did
wrong.
Not have that down.
What year did Sweden host the World Cup? 1958. We got that right. How many World Cups have Canada? We eventually said 2. You said 3. So Matthew's only going to give us 1 point for that because you said 3. Yeah. We got it right that South Africa-France was the biggest shock according to the FIFA rankings.
The stats.
We eventually got it right that the only unbeaten team at 2010 was New Zealand, but we only get 1 point because you said Italy. Number 8, who won the 5th World Cup? It was West Germany. We got it right, but we only get 1 point because you said Uruguay.
Yes, sorry.
Number 9, have Turkey ever won a medal at the World Cup? We said yes, we got that right. And how many goals did Holland score in the 2002 World Cup? 1 by Matt Holland. But your original answer was wrong, so we only get 1 point from that. So we get 14 out of 20.
Not bad, considering I got so many wrong.
70%.
That's a first, isn't it? If I'm at the University of World Cup of World Cups.
We also had a question in from James Watts, who emails us. By the way, you can email us at worldcupofworldcups@gmail.com. He says, all right, guys, love the pod. It's brilliant. Of course I'm going to say that. Of course I'm going to keep that bit in. Yeah. Got a trivia question, if it hasn't already been done, which is the only club team to have players win the World Cup at a record 5 consecutive tournaments? I'll be honest with you, I haven't really thought about it. I mean, I could look it up and figure it out. I'm guessing it must be like the last 5 tournaments. I'm
going to say Barcelona.
Yeah, it's someone like that, or Inter Milan or something like that.
Okay, I'm going to say Barcelona. You're going to say Inter Milan.
I will look it up and we'll put the answer on the next episode. And my dad has emailed in, Hi,
Colin.
Not to my personal email address, which he knows, but to the one for the podcast. He didn't ring me either. He had a dream the night before the England-France game. He said the score was 1-1 when late on, England were awarded a corner. I stepped up to take it. That is my dad. Stepped up to take it. And after conversation with the other players, I played it long and a goal was scored with a header at the far post by, he says, Maguire, I guess. Making it 2-1. I woke up at that point. I'm hoping it was the final score. Well, Dad, yes, it was the final score, but the wrong way.
We all predicted it would be 2-1, but it was to England.
He asks, does this make me the oldest player to play at the World Cup? Sure. Fine. Yeah.
In dreams.
Says, is this better than an octopus predicting the result? No, because you got it wrong.
No.
It isn't better. I'm sorry.
Incidentally, speaking of predictions, there was an otter managed to predict that Japan would beat Germany. Did you see that earlier in the tournament?
Hooray for randomness. So that's where we are. There are 4 games to go. And I genuinely, I mean, you'd think France and you'd think maybe Argentina, if not them, but Croatia, And
Morocco are beating good sides. They've beaten Belgium. They've beaten Portugal. They've beaten Spain.
And also it's between Messi and Mbappe for the Golden Boot. Messi's now on 4. He's only 1 behind. Even though England aren't in anymore, it's still a lot to go on. Thanks very much for downloading. If you're enjoying these podcasts, by the way, please leave us a review on where you get your podcast from. That really helps us get it more visible and means more people can listen to it.
There's a quick one because both me and you have played this. Kev Bland, friend of the podcast, has asked which 8 players played for overseas clubs whilst playing at a World Cup for England. So if you want to send that in to worldcupofworldcups@gmail.com, we will give you the answers next time when we discuss the semi-finals.
Yeah, you can also support us at ko-fi.com/World Cup of World Cups. This has been the World Cup of World Cups podcast. Thanks for listening. I'm at James E. Cook.
I'm at Comedy Savage.
Until next time, ta-ra.
Bye.